So to make the rest of the cutlery, we need to start with your spoon. So once you've got your spoon exactly the way you want it to appear when it cuts out the plastic, remember the red on the outside is all the cut lines. Make sure there's no gaps between these things. You might need to go in very carefully and just check that. And black is engraved, remember. So if you want to put any decoration on there, you can put it into black. All the other lines in other colours won't make any difference to laser cutter. So first thing we need to do is need to copy this. So using your select tool, select the whole thing, copy it and paste it. So you've got a second one. So over here, I'm going to put this right next to it. We've now got a second design. I'm going to turn this into the fork. So what I'm going to do first of all is zoom in because I'm going to try and put the prongs on the fork. Now, one thing you could do very easily is get a line and start to draw some lines on here. So we could start to do this. I would suggest what you do is change it from the original drawing tool to the second one, which is a connected line. So they're joined together. So I'll just delete these ones off and use the second tool. Remember, this is a cut line, so it also needs to be drawn in red. So I could do a series of connecting lines that go in and out like this. Now, be very, very careful if doing this because of a couple of things. Let's leave that like that to start with. First of all, this is not leaving an awful lot of space down here for using the fork as a shovel. So for example, if we were trying to put food on the fork, it leaves very little space down here for us to actually put the food in. So the prongs need to be moved back further so that they're further into the actual spoon itself. Also, this is very, very sharp. If this is supposed to be for children, then if I was to use this design, if we were to trim these bits off here, you would see that what we'd end up with is quite some sharp looking edges for children to be putting in the mouth. And we don't want to do that either. So let's undo what we've done and let's see if we can improve on that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do some lines that go in. I'm also going to try and make them regular and you'll see why in a minute. So not too far down deep inside. I'm going to come up a bit and then I'm going to go back down again. Try and keep that in line with the first one and then go back out again, okay? Double click when you want it to stop drawing. So I can delete these bits off here now. So we've ended up with these shapes. So trim off the excess bits. And you can see, oops, I've gone too far then. Let's go back a minute. If that does happen, by the way, it's because your line's not quite long enough. Just extend your line down slightly. Then you should be able to trim the bits off in between. Remember using the delete part, not the delete all. So you're deleting parts of your line. So you can see here I've got something that's got not as sharp a bits, but there are still fairly sharp. Let's zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to need to do a little bit more work on these. So if we use perhaps the curve path tool, what I can do now is perhaps curve them. Or another thing you can do here, which is a little trick, is to use a circular tool. So if I draw myself a circle that fits the edge of here, so I'm just going to try and stretch this out slightly so it fits the edge of my design. And then what I can do is I can trim off the excess bits and you can see that's now left me with a nice curve on the end of my fork. Be very, very careful of any excess lines. So when I zoom in, you can see there's some excess bits here that I do still need to trim off. They are just getting in the way slightly. So that's a way of very, very simply having a curved edge. There is another way which I'll show you how to do. So we've got a curved end on that one. To curve the edge of this one, what I'm going to do instead is go into my arc tool. And if you go all the way along to the edge to the fit an arc, a filleted arc between two lines. Don't worry about that bit for a moment. And then just click those 2 points using your shift key. It doesn't like it. It's obviously too close. Let's just see if I can change that again. Let's make that smaller. Let's go back down to 2 mil and do it onto here. Nope, doesn't like this either. Let's go to 1 mil. No, it doesn't want to do it. I think because the angle there is too sharp. Let me show you what it should be doing instead of doing that. So if I had 2 lines at a right angle like this, and we use the arc tool, I can put that bit higher again now, back to 4 mil. If I click the 2 sides, what it should do is curve that corner. You can see it's worked this time. I think because this is a bit too sharp, this arc tool's not working. So we might need to use the circle option instead. So try and do all your points so that they're not so sharp. So you might need to do a little bit of work on them to do that in the first place. And then what you can do, if you've made sure that you've gone not all the way to the center point, but just a bit beyond it, is if I delete this half off, we should then be able to copy this side like we did before, copy all the lines that we want, and then paste it onto this side. So flip that over like we did last time, and we should be able to then drop that back onto there. Now you can see why I didn't go too close to that middle line, because we still need to be able to have a prong in the center. It's not quite level because it's too close at that side and too far away at that side. But you can see why I didn't make this angle go from here right to the top of there, because it wouldn't leave us enough to put a prong on. You could do a 3-pronged fork or a 4-pronged fork. It's entirely up to you how many prongs you put on there. But it's important that we get this curve, okay? And leave yourself some space at the bottom here. That is very important, as I said, because some people use their fork to shovel food with. We need some space to put that on. You shouldn't need to have to change the handle. That should stay the same so that they become a set. The only thing we're working on is the top bit.